Welcome to the broadcast, my dear fruits. Holiday time, is it? Harkles? Holiday time! Taking a tip out of Madonna's book, are you? Everybody spread the word, we're gonna have a celebration! Party time! How dare they? How dare they have some fun? We shall look at that, and we shall also look at Madonna, because some of you have asked for my opinion on her current tour. So a bit of a hodgepodge today. I've got to confess, I'm a little bit discombobulated. I just had a fight with a rug, if such a thing's possible. Do any of you like to have rugs? I like to have natural material for floors, be that wood or stone or whatever, but then rugs on top of it. I'm a great lover of old rugs, and I just took delivery of one for this very room, actually, and it's enormous. It's much bigger than I thought it was going to be, and I was kind of wrestling with it and nearly got into some sort of trouble with it, I've got to tell you, rolled up in the thing. But I've made it through. The acoustics might sound a little different though, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, because normally I have soft furnishings and bits and bobs to help improve the acoustics in this room, but at the moment it's rather bare apart from an extremely large rug. So it might sound a little bit different. We'll see how it goes. I never aim for technical perfection, by the way. I rather like the makeshift feel of shows such as this. So I'm not aiming for perfection, but I just hope that most of you can at least hear what I'm saying in some way. Oh, I also wanted to mention my ears, because normally I would try and find some nice pink earrings to go with this, and I've actually got a nice pair that go with this. It's a demi-parure kind of affair, but for those that have inquired, my ears have not healed. It's been going very well since I had them pierced maybe 8 weeks ago. Very well indeed, especially this side. No infections, no nasties, no nothing, but I can tell that they are not healed or anywhere approaching fully healed yet. And I'm one of those types that just wouldn't mess with them until I know. So I'd rather leave them, even if it's months instead of weeks, until I can dress them up a bit more for you. Dare I try and pronounce this island? Canoan, a tiny island in St. Vincent in the Grenadines. This is where our dear Harkelinas have found themselves, having a fabulous time. Yes, and ripening in the sunshine. Freckles on display. A food shop in the Sandy Lane Yacht Club and Marina in Gloucsie Bay. This is where they were spied and apparently papped by a passerby. Was his name Ari Emanuel? A crochet dress she wore by Chloe. How can one make something so expensive look so cheap? This is what crosses my mind, my dears, with that gal. Do you see, it's the opposite of dear Catherine, who pops on a Zara affair as she wore this week. A Zara number, a jacket, £65. It looks like Chanel. It looks like she's dripping in Chanel, my dear. And I've seen people raving about the look. With the Duchess of Sussex, she dons this crochet, $4,000 or $5,000 affair, and it's a box of rags again, isn't it, my dears? Rags to riches, and the Panama hat, the oh so cool Kate Moss moment of the Panama hat. Sets it all off, walking along. Is that her son she's with, toddling along next to her? Oh no, it's somebody toddling along next to her. The hubby Harold. You'd think it was another son, wouldn't you? The way that she leads him. She should put him on reins. In fact, that's what the royal family should have done a very, very long time ago. Put the boy on reins, I should say. You've got to do it with wayward children from time to time, if they're going to veer into dangerous territory and dangerous paths. But that's what he's already done, and it's too late. He's caught in traffic. They were also captured returning and touching down in Atlanta, disembarking after a private flight. Cream of the islands, she declares. cream of the islands. Sour cream. What island was this, Megan? The island of lost souls. And your cream curdled long after the cat got at it, my dear. The cat got the cream, but it curdled. Cream of the island, I ask you. Fantasy island. And this island that they're purported to have stayed on Canaan. Most of it was leased out in the 1990s by a rich Italian, a banker, Antonio Saladino. And he actually leased it out as competition for the island of Mustique, which is only 15 miles south of this particular island. Canaan is only 3 square miles, tiny little place, lovely place, but it was kind of set up to compete for the exclusivity of Mustique, but it was actually promoted as a sort of rival that was even more exclusive than Mustique. This was the wish at the time in the 90s, and I thought that it actually symbolises the Sussex's vain ambition to appear grander than our real royal family. Because Mustique, for example, beloved of the late Margaret Rose, represents old school charm, old money to some extent, and then you have the new interloper in the form of Canaan, lovely, beautiful, gorgeous, but more directed towards those who want to display their credentials at the extra mile, those who say anything you can do, we can do better, and those who want to show off their billionaireship among millionaires. You know, this is what they say about the place. It's a playground for billionaires among millionaires of the world. The next step up. And there are those kinds who are likely going to be impressed by that. And then there are those kinds that will think it's vulgar. And you can take your pick. The Prince and Princess of Wales were attending workshops run by Sports Aid for mental fitness. I'm sick and tired, to be quite honest with you, my dear, sick and tired of speaking to you about mental fitness. You all know it's a wonderful cause, and I'm sure that they're doing the right thing getting involved with all these initiatives, because apparently everybody's crazy, especially the young ones coming through. But I'm bored stiff of talking about the ins and outs of mental fitness. My mental fitness, which is always in superior condition, is deteriorating the more I talk about it, my dear. So I'll just say a happy time is had by all. Do we really need to say anything else about these enterprises and initiatives? No. She wore a white t-shirt. What more do you need to know? She wore a white t-shirt and jeans. And she should have worn a ponytail. To be quite honest with you, my dears, when she's sprinting about and prancing and dancing all over the place. Did it not cross the gal's mind to put up an updo, to do a Princess Anne, or anything to get the tresses out the way? Is it really too much to ask? And sport, that's another subject that bores me boobless. But I have to address it, because at the Rugby World Cup quarter-final, she appeared again. And this is where she wore Zara, but looked as if she was wearing Chanel, because she does it so well. The secret to it, of course, my dear, for you paupers and peasants, if you want to go shopping for a Zara jacket and pretend that you're Princess Catherine, the secret is to get it tailored. You know, buy cheap, then get it tailored. Spend that few extra quid getting it tailored, and that'll sharpen things up for you, my dear. Don't just chuck it on off the rack. That's my advice. It was England versus Fiji for this match, apparently, and she was toting a Chanel bag, the Pearl Crush bag, Coco Chanel. The crowd were throwing petulant demands at Catherine, telling her to divorce William. Divorce William and marry them instead, they cried. And in the dressing rooms, there was lots of fruit on display, wasn't there, my loves? Lots of fruit on display. Plenty in the fruit baskets there. Fruit baskets galore. But it was her son, Georgie Porgy, that stole the show at the Rugby World Cup in France in an appearance with Daddy. Both future kings in navy suit and red tie. And he was growing in confidence, the boy, every time. And it's such a credit to Prince William, isn't it, for taking him along to these things and showing him how to interact with people and make small talk about loads of nonsense all the time. It's the best apprenticeship, isn't it, to see it in the flesh and come along with Daddy for these things and get into it from a very young age and learn that this is your life, this is what your service is going to be all about, my dear. It puts me in mind of the Lion King. And it's quite interesting, isn't it? You know, in the Lion King, when Daddy Lion is coaching along the young Simba, or whichever one it was, and raising him aloft, but you know, teaching him the ways of the world and the ways of the jungle. Isn't it funny? We get to see it in the flesh with William and George. It's exactly the same, isn't it? The circle of life, yeah? You get to see it right before you. Your very eyes, the magic of royalty. The real deal. And let it be known that we, the fruits of the jungle, have got our eye on Uncle Scar, plotting in the background, plotting and stalking and skulking, trying to get his greedy paws on young Simba and the two upcoming kings. It's not going to happen. Uncle Scar or Auntie Scar, keep your paws and claws away. It's not going to happen on our watch, is it, my dears? Not on our watch. And they were in France to cheer on the Dragons, whatever that means, whichever team that denotes. The Dragons, apparently. Isn't that something to do with Wales? At Clarence House, Queen Camilla hosted supporters, friends, and previous winners of the Forward Prizes for Poetry to mark 30 years of the Forward Arts Foundation and to thank them for their work to support and promote poetry in the kingdom. And she was quite pleasant in this get-up, this silk peacock affair, this print by Fiona Clare. Helena Bonham Carter was in attendance and performed a deep, respectful curtsy with much reverence. The foundation promotes public knowledge, understanding and enjoyment of poetry, and the charity is committed to widening appeal and supporting talent. And I did clock a maven of the fashion world, a French maven, Jeanne Damas of Rouge. She was complimenting Catherine on her style. She said that she's got it. She's got what the French consider to be chic. Not just we as outsiders consider to be chic, but the French themselves. She says, the Princess of Wales has always been very chic. I personally like the sharp jackets she is wearing recently. I like the idea of a uniform. And it was me that used that word a few broadcasts ago, wasn't it, to say that I had noticed that she had her look with the tailored jackets and everything had become like a sort of regular signature uniform that they're used to seeing. Well, I'm not the only one that's noticed it, apparently. A uniform, something you feel strong and beautiful in and can wear every day. This is something I feel is very French. Simple, chic outfits, which you can highlight with a nice accessory or a big red lipstick, and it brings the focus on the woman. You have to see the woman before her outfit. And I do apologise if it's vulgar to draw yet another comparison with her sister-in-law, but don't you see the contrast of the complete opposite going on with her? Because you certainly see the outfit first, don't you? Whether she is wearing some great big ruby affair, trussed up off the shoulder, or those bed sheets she was wearing last week, whatever it is, it's the accoutrement that makes the bang, isn't it, and draws the eye. Whereas with our fair princess, no matter what she wears, no matter how gorgeous and sparkly and designer or not, it is Catherine that we see. It is Catherine. Whereas with the Duchess of Sussex, it's a box of rags. There was a rather cheeky moment involving Big Willie, because he was interviewed along with Catherine, and he was asked which emojis they use most often. And William said, I've been told not to pick the aubergine, so I've got to pick something else. Ooh! From a future king, very naughty. For viewers abroad, aubergine is eggplant. And it's a fruit, did you know? Technically, it's a fruit. It's a berry. A plant of the nightshade family. But, you know, when it comes to cooking, it is treated as a vegetable, but to the best of my knowledge, it actually falls under fruit. Who would have thunk it? But when they were first brought to America from Europe, they were predominantly white. And as you can see in the centre of this photograph here, It's positioned between two eggs, but you can see the similarity there, which is why one of the reasons I presume that it took on the name eggplant in other climes. But yeah, aubergine for us and aubergines for William and Catherine. When William was asked, he said, "Is this a clean thing or is it for family viewing?" Quite naughty, quite naughty. What would Queen Victoria think of him alluding to his aubergine, our big Willie? "It would have been the aubergine," he said. It would have been the aubergine. But I'm saying now, because I've got to be a little bit grown up, he went on to describe the grimace emoji, which is one of my favourites probably. Catherine chose, well, she said the heart with the laughing emoji. And I don't actually think one like that exists. So maybe she meant a combination of the two, either heart eyes or laughing face. But, you know, we all know what she's getting at, don't we? But she was too royal to join Prince William in his mention of aubergines by mentioning her peach. Some new coins have been released by the Royal Mint, and they're very lovely, I have to say. They're right up my street because they feature animals, flora and fauna of the kingdom. And one of those animals is a red squirrel, which gave me a giggle because I had just broadcast the last show. And some of you had noticed that I've got a little red squirrel in the background here in the bookcase that I've just added. And almost as soon as it went out, the press release came out about this. And the first thing I saw was red squirrel. So isn't that an omen, my dear? Isn't that an omen? A red squirrel, hazel dormouse, the oak tree leaf, and the national flowers of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So lovely. And the designs were personally approved by the King. The first new coins will enter circulation by the end of the year, and these new designs, known as definitives, signal the final chapter of the King's transition into coinage. And a little shout out to the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, who were in Northern Ireland at the Public Record Office for the 100th anniversary of this archive system. The Duke viewed key documents, including files relating to his parents' visit to Belfast in 1941, and the office's oldest document, a papal bull dated 1219. How fascinating. I received a few questions regarding Madonna and her tour, which kicked off in London this week. One of them was from James, Devonshire. "Greetings to you, River, Queen of the Fruit Basket." Thank you, my dear. Greetings. "Did you go to see Madonna's show, her new show in London?" "No, I didn't. I remember you saying that you are a fan of her early years, but not of recent years." That's true. I think she should have quit after Music in 2000. I think everything before then was memorable and rather fabulous, and everything beyond 2000 has been forgettable and downright trashy. I'm generalising. There were a few nice moments, but in general, no. I'm curious to know if your opinion has changed or been reaffirmed. A few people have asked similar questions of me, and I can only go by the footage I've seen. I realise that it's a different experience to see it in the flesh than it is to watch on YouTube, as I have been doing, but I have watched quite a lot. And I'm afraid my opinion has not changed. It has indeed been reaffirmed, my opinion that everything went downhill with her. One thing that's truly heartbreaking, which isn't her fault, and it's everywhere now, is the sea of phones. It's people capturing their experience and having a show within a show. People used to go to watch theatre or a concert or a work of art to focus purely on the entertainer or the talent. In this day and age, it's a dual thing going on of focusing on that and also on their own show, their own experience. Thousands and thousands of recordings, as if it's really necessary to make your own, but it's for you to sort of cosset your own souvenir away and brandish it to your friends and acquaintances on social media, you know. I know it sounds rather harsh, and I'm sure we're all guilty of doing it, including me from time to time, but I still feel rather salty about it because it immediately spoils the mood, it diminishes the atmosphere, it's hard for the entertainers, it pulls focus from the very beginning, you know. the focus should be under the spotlight. Think about those silent movies that I've spoken about recently. Greta Garbo and the men of yore and the directors of yore who knew how to put their subject in a frame. And the chivalrous gentlemen I've spoken of recently in day-to-day life that know how to frame their women by looking at them like a Mappoli Mozzi frames Beatrice by looking at her in a portrait, a photographic portrait. It's the same thing I mean. You should have the decency as an audience member to put the star in focus, the talent in the frame, because it does count when you see a sea of audiences all transfixed to their phone rather than what's going on in front of them. Sorry, I'm digressing, my dears, but it's such a shame. Whether it's Coronation or a Madonna gig, I mean, we've really lost something there by trying to find something else. And to clarify, if you haven't heard me hold forth on Madonna before, yes, I am a great fan of her. You won't find anyone that has a deeper appreciation of her talent, her real expertise in movement, expression, and even voice. I'm a great fan of her voice and the sound it makes. It's very different to the athleticism of an opera singer or a classical singer, but it's actually just as impactful, and it's rather rare. It's just as rare to find a pop voice that has those sort of silvery tones that take you on an emotional journey or a frothy bubblegum journey, be it Lucky Star, Borderline, the more squeaky vocals of her very early years, or later on the live vocals of a Blonde Ambition tour or a Girly Show, which were very well honed and crafted and full of athleticism of their own, or the sultry balladeering of a Crazy for You or a Live to Tell. The particular quality of her voice is rather special and can be poo-pooed by those who don't understand what it takes to create an emotional response from a pop voice. She's got it. She lost it for a few years. It did come back rather stronger for this tour, I have to say. She's been rather competent singing in this tour, as opposed to the movement in this tour. Now, this is one of the great shames of her performance in this tour, because she's totally lost her sense of attack. And it's a question of energy. She's lost the attack. Now, I understand she's 65 years old and that her body is not going to move in the same kind of way. She doesn't do herself any favours. She doesn't do herself any favours by forcing herself into high heels, first of all. This is one of the cringeworthy things about the affair, because it needn't be cringeworthy. I think it's totally fabulous for a woman or man of any age, but especially in the later years of life, to be doing what she does, and I highly approve of it. Grace Jones is an example of a 75-year-old woman who does it flawlessly, sexily, beautifully. She does it topless. She was performing this year out on gigs. Sensual, provocative, sexy, graphic, 75 years. She wipes the floor with Madonna, I'm afraid. She's doing it better. Debbie Harry's doing it better. But Madonna, she forces herself into high heels that she cannot wear anymore, sadly. And, she rather puts one in mind of Joe Biden after one of his speeches. And she waits for her crew to come and guide her around and pull her about. And her body looks like it's dragging her everywhere instead of her, leading with true animation of the body, because she had such control over her body as an instrument, an ornament of expression for many years. And now she's lost that edge. The movements that she does, I mean, it's sad to watch, because she wouldn't have put up with that from herself. This is what annoys me as a fan. She wouldn't have accepted that quality from herself at a certain time. Now, there's something in me that suspects that she is slightly zoned out on medication. This could be all in my mind, but it's because it reminds me of when Britney came back from her hiatus. When she had her breakdown, she came back, and it was almost like an avatar of Britney, a hologram of Britney, but not really Britney. She didn't move in the same way as she once did. So that wasn't to do with age either, but it was to do with the sort of... that she lost her edge. And you could see it in the movement as well as... It's like they weren't quite there. And that's what it seems like with Madonna. It's hard to tell because her face doesn't move that much, although it did look a lot more human than it was looking a few more months ago. I also bear in mind, of course, that she nearly died a few months ago with this very serious infection. So I know all of this, but you have to understand, if you think I'm sounding salty, well, I am. I'm here to offer a critique of it, so I can't really make excuses. You know, the Madonna of yore wouldn't have wanted me to make excuses for her. Just because she's 65 years old, and she's the one that keeps bringing ageism into the mix. She's constantly telling everyone that she suffers from ageism, but one of the main reasons that your records don't get played anymore, Madonna, is because they are simply not as good, anywhere near as good as they were in the early part of your career. And secondly, if you are going to keep hammering home the fact that, and she mentions ageism in this show, by the way, that she suffers from ageism and the effects of ageism. Well, you are your own worst enemy, because you surround yourself with a troupe of dancers who you look like you could be their great-great-grandmother. You know, they're in their teens, their 20s, and that's fine. I think, you know, all generations should work together in that respect. Why not? But why don't you become a pioneer, Madonna, my dear, and surround yourself with dancers of your own age? Don't you think it would be a fabulous pioneering opportunity to showcase and platform artists and dancers, and I'm being deadly serious here, of your age, of 65, 50s, 60s, 70s. I've watched dance pieces on quite a number of occasions over the years that focus solely on those in the winter of life. A lot older than Madonna, and I can tell you that it can be an extremely beautiful experience. And they don't all force themselves into wearing high heels, and it's not even necessary. Madonna is one of the few women that looks very cool in flats. I don't like flats on women, I prefer high heels, but in her case, in her early days when she would move around in flats, she looked really cool. And she still does now. She wore some slightly flatter shoes during this tour. It wasn't heels all the way through, but it looked so much better, and you weren't on tenterhooks thinking, oh God, she's going to fall over without a Zimmer frame, or without, you know, doing the Joe Biden tripping up the staircase moment, because I kept clutching my pearls that she's going to go, but then she'll quickly hold on to one of her, you know, team for support. And there's just no need for it. Just do away with, take the heels off, put on your flats or orthopedic shoes. I'm jesting, my dear, but you know, she's her own worst enemy. And perhaps if you don't want to surround yourself entirely with people of your own age, make it intergenerational. But if you really want to change attitudes and hearts and minds about aging, why not employ people of a certain age? There is an opportunity there for you to do something and make a point. And you are the one that's making an atmosphere of youth and, you know, keeping up with the youth. This is the thing. Because it's one thing to be youthful, like a 75-year-old Grace Jones as she is, or Debbie Harry in her 70s. They're both youthful, but they're not putting on a pretense of actually being 16 years old still. And, you know, I understand, you know, if you have a young soul that you want to be surrounded by that kind of energy. But I thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity there. Most of the reviews that I've seen have been favourable, so it seems that it's gone down rather well. But I saw The Telegraph gave it 4 out of 5 and said, "The star has never looked more alive." And I thought, well, what star have they been looking at? Which constellation, my dear? Because she looked half dead, I'm afraid, throughout most of the first performance at least. One of the moments I did enjoy was when one of her daughters accompanied her on the piano and they exchanged a little glance and a smile, and it did actually make a little tear spring to my eye. So Softy River was still in residence and still in the house. There were moments that I didn't mind looking at and rather enjoyed, but it's, you know, comparing what it was and what she delivered in the old days, it's hard to get excited. And surrounding herself with kids as she's doing it just puts me in mind of Miss Hannigan at the orphanage. It's not good. And I groan whenever she pulls out that guitar of hers. Why does she insist on doing it? She's mediocre at best on the guitar. Perhaps some people find it endearing. I'm sure hardcore fans do. But I've never liked, enjoyed or wanted to hear her playing her guitar. Put it away and leave that to Chris Martin. Thanks for joining me, and I will catch up with you in the next broadcast. Leave me a nice juicy comment, and my tip jar is in the description box. Ta-ra for now, my dear, and toodle pip.